Let me ask you something before we even start. What happens when the one name that held everything together is suddenly gone? What happens when that number 7 jersey gets passed to someone else? What happens when the man who carried Portugal on his back for 2 decades is no longer standing on that pitch? People will tell you Portugal is fine. People will tell you the next generation is ready. People will tell you that football moves on, and Portugal will move on too. But the numbers, the cold, hard, undeniable numbers, are telling a completely different story. And today, I'm going to show you exactly what that story looks like, because nobody else wants to say it out loud. Welcome back. If this is your first time here, this is the channel where we talk about the football truths that mainstream media is too afraid to touch. Subscribe, hit the bell, and let's get straight into it, because today's topic is one that the entire football world has been avoiding. Portugal without Ronaldo, how strong are they actually? FIFA 2026 is coming. Portugal is qualified. The squad has Bruno Fernandes, Rafael Leao, Vitinha, Goncalo Ramos, Bernardo Silva, and everyone is talking about how exciting this young generation is. But when you actually sit down and look at the stats, when you trace the history, when you compare the performance numbers side by side, one deeply uncomfortable pattern keeps showing up. And that pattern says Portugal without Ronaldo is a fundamentally different and significantly weaker team. Here are 5 brutal reasons why, backed entirely by numbers. The first reason is the goal-scoring crisis, and this one is so severe that it should end the debate on its own. Cristiano Ronaldo scored 128 international goals for Portugal. Read that number again. 128. That is not just a record. That is a structural dependency that Portugal built their entire attack around for 20 years. Now think about this honestly. In those 20 years, how many other Portuguese players emerged who could consistently score at international level? The answer is almost none. Nani, one of the most talented wingers of his generation, finished his international career with just 9 goals. Luis Figo, an absolute legend of the game, scored 32 goals over an entire decade. João Felix, the player who was supposed to be the next big thing, has managed just 11 goals in over 50 international appearances. 11. Goncalo Ramos scored a stunning hat-trick against Ghana at the 2022 World Cup, and everyone went wild. But his overall record still sits at around 15 goals in 35 appearances for the national team. Now compare that to Ronaldo's rate of a goal every 1.6 games, and the gap becomes almost embarrassing. Bruno Fernandes, who many people point to as the new leader of this team, had scored just 13 goals in 67 caps by 2023. For an attacking midfielder playing in the most creative role on the pitch, that is an average return, not a world-class one. And here is a number from an actual match that tells you everything you need to know. When Portugal faced Spain in the 2022-23 Nations League without Ronaldo in the squad, they managed just 4 shots on target in the entire game. 4. When Ronaldo was part of the team during the same period, Portugal were regularly putting 8 to 12 shots on target per match. That is not coincidence. That is not bad luck. That is a direct consequence of removing the one player who created genuine goal threat every single time he stepped on the pitch. At FIFA 2026, when Portugal need a last-minute goal to stay alive in a knockout match, they will not have the one man who has done exactly that more times than anyone can count. That absence alone should terrify every Portuguese fan. The second reason is the leadership vacuum, and this is where the conversation gets even more uncomfortable. Football is not just about technical ability. There is something that exists beyond stats and formations. It is called aura. When Ronaldo walked onto a pitch, opposition teams changed their entire game plan around him. At the 2022 World Cup, Ghana's players admitted in post-match interviews that neutralizing Ronaldo was their primary tactical objective going into the game. One man so completely dominated the mindset of an opposing team that they restructured their defense specifically because of him. That is a level of psychological impact that simply cannot be transferred to another player. So who leads Portugal now? Bruno Fernandes is the obvious answer. He is the Manchester United captain, technically gifted, experienced at the highest level. But look at his track record in the biggest international moments. When Portugal were knocked out by Morocco at the 2022 World Cup, Bruno was largely invisible throughout the match. He has still not proven himself as a consistent big-game performer at international level when the pressure is absolute and the stakes are everything. Bernardo Silva is arguably Portugal's most complete player right now. Intelligent, technically brilliant, consistently good. But he is a quiet leader. He does not bring the fire, the aggression, the follow-me-into-battle energy that changes games and lifts teams when everything is going wrong. Rafael Leao is electric and exciting, but he is still a player who swings between brilliant and anonymous, and he has shown almost no leadership qualities at international level. Here is the number that summarizes all of this. Portugal's win rate with Ronaldo over the last 10 years was 67%. Without him, it dropped to 48%. That is nearly a 20% difference attributed to the presence or absence of one single player. Think about what that means. Almost 1 in 5 games that Portugal would have won with Ronaldo, they did not win without him. And at FIFA 2026, in the knockout stages where a single defeat sends you home, that difference is not just a statistic, it is the difference between glory and another early exit. Nobody in this current Portugal squad has the presence, the history, or the mental authority to fill that gap. Nobody. The third reason is a tactical identity crisis that nobody in Portuguese football wants to acknowledge. Every great World Cup winning team has a clear tactical identity. You know exactly what Spain are going to do. You know what France are going to do. You know what Germany, Brazil, and Argentina are going to do. They have systems, structures, and philosophies that exist independently of individual players. Portugal under Ronaldo had a tactical identity too, and it was brutally simple. Give Ronaldo the ball and let him do something with it. It was not a sophisticated system. It was not a flexible philosophy. It was a crutch. But it worked because the man holding that crutch was the greatest goal scorer in international football history. Now that crutch is gone, and Portugal suddenly have to answer a question they never prepared for. What kind of team are we without him? Coach Roberto Martinez, who famously failed to get the best out of Belgium's golden generation before moving to Portugal, has not provided a convincing answer. Look at Portugal's performances in Euro 2024. They drew with Slovenia and nearly went out on penalties in a game they should have dominated. They lost to France in the quarterfinals in a match where they had no clear plan B when things started going wrong. Ronaldo himself missed a penalty in that game, but the deeper problem was that the entire team looked confused and directionless whenever the obvious approach was not working. Portugal's possession-to-goal conversion rate without Ronaldo across the last 3 major tournaments was 7.2%. With Ronaldo present in the squad, that number was 14.8%. That is literally double the efficiency. And the reason is straightforward. Ronaldo was a focal point. Defenders had to track him constantly, which created space for everyone else. Remove him, and suddenly opposing defenses do not have one specific nightmare to worry about. The attack becomes diffused and predictable, and Portugal start moving the ball without any clear purpose. Against Germany, Spain, France, Brazil, or Argentina at FIFA 2026, that kind of tactical confusion will not just cost them goals, it will cost them the tournament. The fourth reason is that the hype around Portugal's young generation is built almost entirely on potential rather than actual performance, and those are two very different things. Rafael Leao at AC Milan looks like a world-class player. His Serie A performances have been genuinely outstanding, and there are moments where he looks like he could be one of the best in the world. But at Euro 2024, playing for Portugal across 5 matches, he scored 0 goals and contributed 1 assist. 0 goals in 5 tournament matches for a player being described as the future of Portuguese football. In Champions League matches, the highest pressure environment in European club football, he has repeatedly gone quiet. He is a player who performs in his comfort zone and disappears when the discomfort arrives. At a World Cup, discomfort is every single minute of every single match. João Felix is another example that should give Portugal fans serious pause. Atletico Madrid sold him. Barcelona did not commit to him fully. Chelsea took him on loan and sent him back. For Portugal, he has scored just 11 goals in 5 years of international football. This is the player who was supposed to be the heir to Ronaldo's legacy. 11 goals. Vitinha is a genuinely excellent player, but he is an orchestrator, not a match winner. He controls tempo and moves the ball beautifully, but he does not score the goals that win World Cups. Goncalo Ramos remains the most promising of the group, but he spent his time at PSG largely as a bench player behind Mbappe, which means his development slowed significantly at exactly the moment it needed to accelerate. Now compare this entire group to France's attack, where Mbappe, Griezmann, and Camavinga are all regular starters in Champions League football. Compare it to Spain, where Lamine Yamal and Pedri are among the most talked about players in all of European football right now. Portugal's young players have potential, real, genuine, exciting potential. But potential does not win World Cups. Performance wins World Cups, and the performance numbers from this group are simply not there yet. The fifth reason is perhaps the most painful one because it has nothing to do with any individual player. It is about history. It is about a pattern that has followed Portuguese football for generations and shows absolutely no sign of breaking. Look at Portugal's World Cup record with honest eyes. In 2002, they went out in the round of 16. In 2006, with both Ronaldo and Figo in their absolute prime simultaneously, they finished 4th, the best result in their history. In 2010, they went out in the round of 16. In 2014, they did not even get out of the group stage. In 2018, they lost to Uruguay in the round of 16. In 2022, they reached the quarterfinals before Morocco knocked them out in one of the tournament's biggest shocks. Portugal have never, in their entire history, won a World Cup. The one time they came closest was when they had two generational legends playing together at the same time. That generation came once. It is gone. And the next generation has not yet shown anything close to that level of consistency or dominance. Euro 2016 is always held up as proof that Portugal can win major tournaments, but that was the most unusual edition of the European Championship ever held. 24 teams qualified, third-place teams advanced to the knockout rounds, and Portugal went through the group stage with 3 consecutive draws without winning a single game. They barely survived multiple knockout matches and only lifted the trophy after Ronaldo got injured in the final and coached from the sideline with more passion and intensity than most players show on the pitch. The Nations League titles are genuinely impressive, but there is a reason the Nations League and the World Cup are not spoken about in the same breath. One is a competition between European nations played over several months. The other is the biggest sporting event on the planet, played under the most extreme pressure imaginable, where every tiny weakness gets exposed and punished without mercy. So here is where we land after looking at all of this. This is not about hating Ronaldo or celebrating his exit from international football. This is purely about what the evidence tells us. Portugal's goal scoring was built on one man for 20 years and nobody stepped up to replace him. The leadership gap is real and measurable, nearly 20% of win rate real. The tactical identity is non-existent without a focal point to build around. The young players are talented but unproven and underperforming at exactly the moment they need to deliver. And history itself is working against a Portuguese team that has never found a way to go all the way without a generational icon leading from the front. None of this necessarily means Portugal will be humiliated at FIFA 2026. They might get out of the group stage. They might even reach the quarterfinals again. But winning the whole thing? Lifting the World Cup trophy? Without a clear identity, without a proven goal scorer, without a leader who has been there and done it in the biggest moments, that is not a realistic expectation. That is a dream. And right now, based on everything the numbers are showing us, it looks like it will stay exactly that. If I am wrong, I will say so openly and loudly. But if I am right, remember you heard it here first.